Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is February 1st. 103 years ago today, Hollywood was rocked by a shocking and scandalous murder, one that remains unsolved to this day. William Desmond Taylor, one of the most respected film directors of the silent era, was found dead in his Los Angeles bungalow. The director, who is known for his work on Anne of Green Gables and Huckleberry Finn, was shot in the back. His murder wasn't just a tragedy, it also pulled back the curtain on the darker side of early Hollywood. The power struggles, the scandalous affairs, substance abuse, and the secrets that some were willing to kill for. Today, we'll explore who William Desmond Taylor was, the events leading up to his murder, and the long list of potential suspects, including Hollywood elites and shadowy figures lurking in the industry's underbelly. Was his murder a result of a love affair gone wrong, a professional feud, or was there something even more sinister at play? Let's find out. Before his name became synonymous with one of Hollywood's greatest unsolved murders, William Desmond Taylor was a man of many lives. Born William Cunningham Dean Tanner in 1872 in Carlow, Ireland, he grew up in a wealthy Anglo-Irish family. But instead of following the predictable path of privilege, he reinvented himself multiple times. In the late 1890s, he emigrated to the United States and dabbled in various trades, including antique dealing and acting. But Hollywood is where he truly found his calling. By the 1910s, Taylor had become a well-respected film director. He collaborated with some of the biggest names of his time, including Mary Pickford and Mabel Normand, and was admired for his sophistication, intelligence, and charm. But Taylor's life had its fair share of intrigue as well. In 1908, he mysteriously abandoned his young wife and daughter, vanishing for years before resurfacing in Hollywood under a new name. His family had believed that he was dead that entire time and had just moved on with their lives. So what was he doing during all of those missing years? Even now, nobody really knows for sure. And after his murder, this air of mystery that surrounded him only deepened. Taylor's last night alive seemed ordinary until it wasn't. He lived in an upscale bungalow at the Alvarado Court Apartments in Los Angeles, a community that was home to many of Hollywood's elite. According to his valet, Henry Peavy, Taylor had been in good spirits when they last spoke. But then, sometime after 7:30 p.m., neighbors reported hearing what they thought was a gunshot. But at the time, nobody really thought much of it. It wasn't until the next morning that Peavy walked into the bungalow and found Taylor dead. He had been shot once in the back, and the killer had vanished without a trace. Oddly, nothing appeared to have been stolen. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, which were all clues that led investigators to believe that Taylor had known his killer. And before police could even fully process the scene, an interesting thing happened. Several Hollywood executives rushed into Taylor's bungalow, allegedly removing letters, photographs, and possibly even more incriminating evidence. But it's not necessarily evidence of his murder that they were trying to get rid of. Many believe they were trying to protect the reputations of both Taylor, but maybe more importantly, the powerful figures that were tied to him. Even now, exactly what was taken that morning remains a mystery. The murder of William Desmond Taylor became one of the first Hollywood true crime spectacles, dominating headlines for months. But instead of bringing answers, the investigation only raised more questions and no shortage of suspects. One of the most talked about suspects was Charlotte Shelby, the infamous mother of Mary Miles Minter. Minter was a teenage silent film star, and she had reportedly been in love with Taylor, though he was nearly 30 years her senior. Investigators discovered a passionate love letter from Minter to Taylor at the crime scene, fueling speculation that they had a secret romance. But if there was something going on, it was only one-sided. Taylor reportedly had rejected Minter's advances, mainly because of that huge age gap. Shelby was known for her ruthless control over her daughter's career, and she allegedly saw Taylor as a threat. She was also said to own a .38 caliber pistol, which was the same type of gun used in the murder. There were even claims that she had once threatened Taylor while she was in a fit of rage. Years later, rumors swirled that Shelby had privately confessed, but by then it was too late to prosecute. Mary Miles Minter was estranged from her mother in later years, and she hinted at her mother's dark tendencies, saying, quote, "She would do anything to protect her investment, me," end quote. Taylor's valet, Henry Peavy, was another suspect, though many believe that he was just more of a convenient scapegoat than a genuine lead. Peavy had a minor criminal record, and some in the press used this to paint him as a suspicious figure. But those who knew him said he was loyal to Taylor and had no motive to kill him. Peavy himself was terrified after the murder, saying, quote, "Mr. Taylor was like a father to me," end quote. Investigators interrogated him intensely, but their suspicions ultimately led nowhere. Then there was Mabel Normand, the bright and talented silent film actress who had a close friendship with Taylor. She had been struggling with a cocaine addiction, and Taylor had reportedly been helping get her clean. Some speculated that his efforts had put him in odds with dangerous figures in Hollywood's drug underworld. Normand was also the last known person to see Taylor alive and had left his bungalow just hours before his murder. While she was never considered a serious suspect herself, some theorized that her ties to Hollywood's drug dealers could have put Taylor in danger. Normand later said, quote, "He was a kind man, a friend when I needed one. I'll never understand why anyone would hurt him," end quote. Taylor's murder came at a time when Hollywood was already under scrutiny. Just months earlier, the industry had been rocked by the Fatty Arbuckle scandal, a sensational case that tarnished Hollywood's reputation. Taylor's death only added to the belief that Hollywood was a place of rampant vice and corruption. In response, film studios began to tighten their grip on their actors, enforcing morality clauses and presenting a more wholesome image to the public. But behind the scenes, the industry's secrets remained just as dark. Film historian Karina Longworth put it best, saying, quote, "The Taylor case wasn't just a murder. It was a moment of reckoning for Hollywood. It forced the industry to confront its own excesses and the power dynamics lurking beneath its glamorous facade," end quote. Over the decades, countless books, documentaries, and even private investigations have tried to crack the case. Director King Vidor launched his own probe in the 1960s, reportedly uncovering shocking evidence against Charlotte Shelby. But in the end, he chose not to go public, allegedly saying, quote, "The truth would destroy too many people," end quote. To this day, Taylor's murder remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. Was it a crime of passion? Was it a Hollywood cover-up? Or something even more sinister? It's been over 100 years. We may never know. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found this episode compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. In the meantime, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day, True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!